Welcome to the Broken Sun. Hey there, folks. Before we get started with this session 0, I want to make an important announcement. In order to defray the costs of running a podcast, we have opened up a Patreon. If you'd like to support us, you can go to patreon.com/brokensunrpg. You'll see the link in the show notes. The main purpose of this is just to handle hosting fees, things like art, website hosting as well, and ideally we would like to start being able to pay for things like transcripts, and if we get to the point where we can upgrade our equipment, so much the better. And hey, you never know, shoot for the sky, maybe we can even get to the point where we have a little money left over to pay all of our players and performers, including myself, for all the work that they're doing here for free. So if you would like to support us for as little as $1 per month, you can go to patreon.com/brokensunrpg and just click Become a Patron. And with that out of the way, let's get on with the show. Welcome to the Session 0 for Specters of a Broken Sun, Season 2 of the Broken Sun podcast of role-playing games. I'm Matt, also known as ARP, and I'm your friendly guide here. Today I'm joined by 3 of our Season 2 players. Let's say hello. We'll start with Velvet. Hi, Velvet.
Hey, everyone. For this run-through, I'll be playing Augustus, who is just the worst.
I'm glad to hear it. We always like to have the worst characters on deck here. Where can we find you on the internet?
Oh, you can find me at OG Brown Sugar, most places.
Thank you. And next with us, we have Michael Blood.
Howdy, everyone. I go by Good Sir Blood on Twitter. You can find me there. For the purposes of Season 2, I'll be playing Slip, who is a mind-bending robot person. Yeah.
Mind-bending robots are going to be a bit of our specialty this season, I think. Speaking of mind-bending, we're also joined by Keekers.
Yes, hi everyone. I've been working on my ESP skills, been holding a spoon in front of me every morning, trying to bend it with my mind. Not too much progress yet, but for some reason, when I find them later, they turn into sporks.
That's super good. That's such a good ability.
It just becomes so much more useful then. Anyway, yeah. I am also known as Be a Space Cat on most other places like Tumblr and Twitter. And this season I am playing CD, the robotic mortician, I guess is the best way to put it. Short and sweet.
That makes sense. So, for Session 0, we're going to be digging into character creation, crew creation, world creation, and then we'll also be looking at setting tone, setting expectations, and safety tools for moving forward into this season. So to start with, we settled on our system for Season 2. If you've been following us on Twitter, you already know about this, but we will be using the game Scum and Villainy. It's a Forged in the Dark game by Stras, Acimovic, and Leboef-Little. We've found that it's a lot of fun. It's a space exploration game where you play a group of plucky scoundrels in space. We are modifying it very slightly to work within the setting of the sun and to be a bit more cyberpunk than it is, but it's got tools built into it to accommodate that type of modification. So that's the system we're going to be using. We tested it out. You've already heard the playtest, unless you skipped it. Shame on you. And so you have a basic idea of what to expect. But Forged in the Dark games are very narrative-based. They only use 6-sided die, and your basic goal is to build a pool of 6-sided die based on your skills and attributes, and to address obstacles using that pool. and you have a 50-50 chance of succeeding or failing in some way. You roll a 1, 2, or 3, things go poorly. 4 or 5 is a mixed success in some way, and then 6 is you get what you want. Double 6s is a crit. There's a lot more to it, but that's the basics of the mechanics. So if you hear things about action ratings or attributes and all that, you'll have a basic idea of what we're discussing. And I'll make sure to go into more detail as it comes up. The first thing I want to go into here is we're going to use what's called cats. I know, don't get too excited. We're not actually going to pick up cats and use them for this. This CATS is an acronym, of course, in this case, standing for Concept, Aim, Tone, and Subject Matter.
Now, just so everyone knows that the cat in my username is supposed to be an actual fluffy purring cat and not an acronym.
Thank you. I had always assumed that it was for the construction company, so it's good to know that I was incorrect in this assumption.
Yeah, it is the meowing, wonderful cats.
It's the good cats, not the corporate cats.
The best cats.
All right, I slung you a link to this brief one-page document in the Discord, so if you want to open that up, we will start on these concepts. So let me know when you've got that open.
I really like the example that's provided.
It's here.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think that we should do a Conan-like fantasy instead.
Okay. We'll just switch things a little bit. I mean, that is a direction that Season 1 could have gone,
so
depending
true.
on what choices you made.
Yeah, it was...
It could have just been Marauders in the Desert.
In a desert, yeah. But what if it had been... maybe we should change it up and have it be one of those cold Arctic deserts that you hear so much about.
Okay. We're going to get out into the Arctic instead.
So what you're saying is we got to go retcon Season 1 and just be Conan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We'll go back to Season 1, and we will have, let's see, Den will wake up in a cold sweat in his bed and look over to his bedside table and see the engraving of his family there, Jacques and, Lean and his mom, and everyone's still alive, and he'll go, oh, it was just a dream. And then we'll zoom on to Season 2, where you're Conan's in the tundra.
Yeah, perfect.
It just sounds so wonderful when you put it like that.
Mm-hmm. All right. So speaking of the concept, it says, pitch the game. At a high level, what's it about? So to me, at a high level, we'll be looking at I guess we can say it is a far future cyberpunk scenario. And it's got a focus on corporate greed, military excess, and colonial violence. I think those, to me, are the three main things that we'll be looking at. So it's got the corporate greed, military excess, and colonial violence, with the characters being people who are in some way opposed to or resisting one or more of those systems.
I think, one thing that has to be in context for this is that, I know some people maybe might, be like, oh, you guys are pushing it really far or whatever, but a lot of this is stuff that has happened in a way. A lot of this is based on fact. That this is something that happened many times throughout history of the world, and it's something that I feel like trying to echo in this story and pay tribute to is kind of like one of our goals here.
Yeah, there's spoilers for Season 1.
Mm-hmm.
The big twist that we learned there, and skip ahead if you don't want spoilers here. But spoilers for Season 1, the big twist is that we learned the people living on the station were the folks who originally built that station as an orbital habitat where they could live off of Earth and sort of push back against oppression and discrimination faced there for those cultures. And when things went poorly from an outside invasion and people messing things up on Earth in the mistake, they took their system and basically moved it to the asteroid belt to ride out that emergency. But a bunch of jerks from a powerful industrialized military nation took their battle station, crash it into that peaceful advanced society, and through a series of terrible actions, erased that culture, destroyed the continuity of those families and belief systems, and installed something that they made up out of whole cloth instead, in order to take advantage of and exploit the people living on the station for their own good. To an extent, this backfired on the colonial types living in what came to be known as the Sun, in that they are no longer able to, for the most part, inhabit human bodies and have to live in a part-time simulation and in robotic forms. But of course, that does not at any point excuse the actions that they took or continue to take. And I want to make sure that as we move forward, we keep in mind the culpability, the responsibility that we have to address these subject matters sensitively, and to ensure that we continually check in with each other and make sure that we are comfortable with how we're approaching these things. And we'll talk a bit more about that once we get to our safety tools for this season. All right, so we're on the same page for the concept here. Cyberpunk, those aspects that we discussed, and characters who are resisting one or more of those three elements: the corporate greed, military excess, and colonial violence.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Okay, just want to make sure we're good there. The aim is, what are we trying to accomplish? Can someone win? Can everyone lose? Are we telling a specific type of story? What are your aims? What do you want to see here?
Like us or the characters, though, because I feel like my aim might be a little bit different from CD's. Or
I want to focus on what we as players of a game have as our individual, and hopefully we'll find group aims here.
I'm really into the possibility that we could mess up and just, I know that's like by the nature of the game that we're playing, but yeah, I'm fully ready to embrace the possibility that we make things worse.
Okay.
I was thinking like a little bit partial redemption in a sense for the characters, because obviously they royally messed up and are part of this extremely horrendous system. But I think that at least I know that I want to try to play my character in this way, that they're trying to do something about it. But I mean, like, I don't mind messing up in certain ways that are negative towards like this sort of thing, but I feel very invested with like season 1 characters that I really don't want them to come into any harm, since they're still kind of existing in this fiction, you know.
Yeah, when last we left them off, they were on their way here to this physical place, at least, where your season 2 characters will be carrying out your operations. So there is that risk.
Yeah.
So that's something we should talk about as well. All right, so your focus is your characters are trying to do something about the system they're part of.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're hoping for those characters to have, in your eyes at least, those characters to have some type of redemption for their part in this?
I mean, I would like, you know, we have different characters, and I like to try to play my character at least as having helped a bit, I guess. I guess I'm almost echoing my first season kind of thing, but I guess it's different too, just for the who changes who they are and that sort of thing. But I mean, I don't want to say, oh, we have to do this. I'm just saying that.
That's why we're having this discussion right now.
Yeah.
So that we're getting ourselves onto the same page. So your character has good intentions, or good intentions by your standards.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it's good intention, but how they go about things is off.
That's fair. Well, but what do you think? What are your aims here?
I think I agree with Mike in that I'm open to just seeing where it goes. Like, I'm definitely open to us either, you know, winning, getting what we want, or if we mess up, just like failing terribly.
Okay. So it sounds like we're kind of on a play to find out what happens kind of wavelength here.
Yeah. But
I would definitely say that.
I'd like there to be like a failsafe, is what I'm saying for the season 1 people characters.
All right, you don't want bad things to happen to the characters from season 1 as a result of the actions of season 2.
Yeah, like, well, I mean, to a degree, like, obviously them changing stuff, but let's say we're in a mission trying to move them, like, their sleeping forms from point A to point B, and it's like, oh my gosh, we totally messed up, and are they dead now? You know, it's hard to say that I like the agency of one character to mess with another character in a way is a little hard in a way, because I think we're in a unique position with this setup compared to other podcasts. You know, like, you've got other people playing games, and I think it's hard to let one character be completely in the hand of another character, like, you know.
No, that's fair. I think we can say, if we want to put a limit on that we don't want these characters' actions to result in the death of the season 1 characters.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
But also, it's like not. I mean, it's a game, and I know that it's a lot of it is up to chance. But I think it's not fair if, say, we killed one person's character and then everyone else is okay.
No, obviously not without that player's foreknowledge and consent.
Yeah.
Of course. Is there a victory condition, do you think, here? Is there a way your characters can win as a group or individually?
I think so, but I think some folks want some folks want different things.
We want very different things, you and me.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll get into that. But is that something you want to pursue as part of the game? Can someone win, or can everyone win? Or does someone winning mean everyone can't win?
I'm fine with if one of us gets what we want and it like plot-wise closes out the possibility of someone else winning, so to speak. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I would agree. I think it would be interesting to do the sort of like no one's happy sort of situation would be interesting. But I mean, I don't care if, like, say, Augustus completely won out. Like, I'd be like, okay.
Okay.
That'd be pretty bad.
Yeah.
Would it be that bad?
I mean, I don't know.
Let's not mince meat here.
I don't know how much that would affect CD, honestly, but...
Now, is there a specific type of story that we want to tell?
Cyber noir.
Cyber noir. So you want mysteries to investigate stuff?
Love
get
that.
Get into fights and get hurt?
I mean...
You know how I do with conflict resolution, Matt?
Yeah.
Once again, I have no physical skills. This is like grade school PE. Don't make me throw anything. Don't make me run anywhere.
Well, a lot of the way that noir works is that there's a really push-pull relationship between the protagonist and the story, where with noir, sorry, this is my English major coming out. In order to get ahead, the detective, or whoever it is, gets hurt. They poke their nose in where they know it doesn't belong and they know it's dangerous, and they get hurt, but in return for getting hurt in some way, they make a gain. Clue, information, progress. They learn something. And then generally by the end of a noir story, the detective is on their last legs, like barely standing, but is able to pull out a victory or at least solve the problem to some extent. So if that's the kind of story you want to tell, we can do that.
Absolutely into that.
If there's a different understanding of cyber noir that you have that doesn't match with that, we should talk about it.
I guess there's different, like, I don't know. I'm talking the most again.
Everyone needs to have input here. It's very important that we're all on the same page and comfortable with what's happening.
So I guess I like that, and I like that definition. I just wonder if that also includes more like intangible damage or setbacks as opposed to like physical harm.
Yeah,
for sure. It should be able to.
Okay, yeah, because I was also wondering just in terms of getting hurt, if, because a lot of it is played out in that kind of, sort of simulation space. So, like, I agree, and I like that. I just wanted to double check that it wasn't going to be, like, all physical. Then I'm useless again.
Yeah, I mean, part of that is going to be, you're going to be in situations that don't play to your strengths a lot. So that's another big part of noir. Like, usually the detective is not a martial artist or, a gun kata master.
Mm-hmm.
If they get in a fight, they're probably going to get the worst of it. Like, if you think of The Question in DC,
cannot fight.
That character. Yeah, he's a terrible fighter. He's really bad at it. And he mostly survives by being tough and clever enough that he can survive, or she now, although she is a better fighter than he was, having had some training.
I mean,
but it's mostly grit and stubbornness, I think, that carries the detective through in this kind of story.
Yeah, I mean, the most, I'd say noir story that I'm the most familiar with, and this is going to say a lot about, kind of I'm Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Right.
Excellent example.
So
yeah, that's noir.
Yeah, so what you have is you get these drawbacks, these sitbacks. Like, Eddie Valentine needs a camera for his job. He has to go talk to his girlfriend to go borrow the camera and deal with an emotional situation there to get the camera. He gets the camera, he uses it, and he's successful. He gets the pictures, but then he gets bodily thrown out, and and then there's parts where he's chasing after someone, gets thrown out again. His friends almost die, but he's able to save them. But, people die, and he's not able to save everyone, but,
Yeah. It's a extremely noir kind of story. Like that, as we were talking about with Velvet there, the harm doesn't have to be physical. In order to get that camera to advance his investigation, he had to go into a painful situation. Mm-hmm. He had to take harm, in this case, emotional harm, in order to get what he needed to advance his investigation.
And then he's developing the film, and it's like, oh my gosh, my brother is on this film.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And that sucks, but it advances his investigation.
Yeah, so.
That's, to me, is the central tenet of noir, is that push-pull between the detective does something stupid or reckless, gets hurt, and then that advances their goals.
So if anyone out there is squeamish about watching an actual hardcore noir story, watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit, because it is wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of the best movies.
It's very good. It's a good movie.
It's super good at allegory.
I like that Droopy was there.
Yes, sir.
That's a good Droopy.
Oh, thank you.
If you want a really classic one, The Big Sleep, I think still holds up. Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall, 1946 film based on Raymond Chandler novel. It's a solid, it's like a archetypal noir story.
Maltese Falcon, probably. I don't know if it's still good.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of the tone, except with cyberpunk aesthetic and sort of societal issues layered over it.
Yeah, that's really what I want from my cyberpunk, my corporate dystopia.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting, though, when you get characters that don't necessarily fit into the mold of a noir character, kind of like Roger Rabbit does.
Absolutely. To be clear, I don't think we're going to just tell a traditional standard noir story, but having that framing as a starting point is useful to me and to all of us to know that that's how we're going to start. And we'll see where it takes us from there. Okay, the next category here is tone. What is the tone? Serious versus gonzo, action versus drama. Are there options for gameplay? You need to come to a consensus on that. I think we should first try and figure out, looking back, because we didn't do a session 0 for season 1, really. So what was our tone for season 1, do you think? How would you describe that?
I think it started out serious, but then we dipped into gonzo a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think we couldn't help but do that because, part of the fact is that, the people that you have I know that I'm always joking, and Jason will joke a lot, and well, everyone jokes, but
yeah,
none of us can play this completely straight.
Yeah, and I think there's a difference between the tone of the story and the tone of the group of players as well. I think as a group of players, we have a pretty consistent tone. So the question is, what kind of story tone do we want to have? To me, I think season 1 was pretty serious.
For sure.
Yeah, it was a lot of dark stuff and serious tones and very little levity. Like, there were moments of levity in the story. Most of the funny, interesting part was out of character stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So between the serious to gonzo, I don't like the word gonzo, but that's what's here in the document. Between the serious to sort of ridiculous, almost over the top, humorous, what do we want to aim for here?
Well, the problem with maybe sometimes if you're going really dark and you have the gonzo is it feels very like out of place. Like, I think the Joker is an example of kind of like trying to be funny, but with this really dark stuff that it gets really like, ooh, really hard to handle in a way. I don't know if that makes much sense of what I'm trying to say, but
well, let's think maybe touchstones.
Mm-hmm.
Like other media that has a similar type of tone that we would like to hit. Can be books, movies, TV shows, other podcasts that you can think of.
I'll let someone else talk first.
I'll pull up the touchstones that are here in Scum and Villainy, and we can start from there maybe.
Sure. I think a list would help.
So some possible touchstones for a Scum and Villainy game and again, keeping in mind that we're doing the scale differently, we're doing inside of a system as opposed to out in space. So the touchstones that they have here are the Guardians of the Galaxy movies by James Gunn.
Yeah.
Serenity by Joss Whedon. I know there's lots of issues with Joss Whedon himself, but for tone is all we're looking at for there. Star Wars by George Lucas. For TV, we've got Cowboy Bebop by Keiko Mogumoto. Firefly, again, Joss Whedon. The Killjoys by Killjoys by Michelle Lovretta. Lost Universe, Hajime Kanzaka. Blake 7, Terry Nation or Outlaw Star by Takehito Iho. Any of those sound like something or give you ideas for a different type of tone you want?
If I was going to zone in.
How dare you?
He's not
here. I refuse to
here.
believe that wasn't planned.
He's here somewhere.
Oh, somewhere.
His brain box is someplace.
He's on a ship with Mandikai and MP last we left him.
Yeah, I think that one thing we have to say is, like, if I wanted to say a particular Star Wars movie, in a way, tone-wise, I'd say more maybe Solo, because it's a little bit more dark or heavy than I think some of the other Star Wars are, but it's not as heavy as Rogue One, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, and Rogue One has a much darker and more bleak tone than any other Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm.
Even like Empire Strikes Back has sort of a dark tone. There's a defeat at the end. Same with The Last Jedi, a darker tone. There's a defeat at the end. But with the hope left open for better things. There's Rogue One. Spoilers. Everybody dies.
Just the whole thing.
Yeah. And Solo, to me, is closer to sort of like an original Star Wars vibe in terms of its tone, in that it's kind of campy and a little bit silly at times, but still approaching serious topics through that lens. Like, bad stuff happens, but also the characters make jokes about it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say like exactly like Solo, because I don't know about the campiness. But then again, maybe there'd be some weird stuff going on because of what we had talked about with visually kind of what things look like in the virtual world that we talked about.
Okay. So are we aiming for a lighter tone than season 1 then? or a less super serious tone than season 1? Or do we want a similar grimness, I suppose?
I think we can keep the grim tone. We just have different trappings.
Yeah, I think it's definitely still grim just because of the situation, but I imagine like this will be more deliberate and planned out, because I feel like, season 1, just because of what happened to the characters, it's kind of like a Hail Mary. But as far as like the characters we're playing out, they've been here a while. They're like playing the long game.
Yeah. They've got ideas, they've got plans, they know what they want to do. They're not a bunch of kids who were thrown into an impossible situation.
Yeah. Sort of wreck everything they touch.
Allegedly.
Not everything. Yeah, not everything. Okay. So, of the touchstones that were listed, which one do we think we're all most comfortable with?
I vibe with Bebop and Solo.
What do you think, Velvet?
I like Bebop and Solo too.
Okay, Keekers, you suggested Solo. So
yeah, I'm okay with Solo. I mean, I need to watch more Cowboy Bebop to kind of get that feel.
Very similar in terms of tone.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing, I love Guardians of the Galaxy, but, it can be a little...
It's definitely a lot more gonzo than the Bebop style.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll aim to have a tone there that's consistent with that. Interject humor wherever you feel is appropriate. We're going to try not to make everything a meme or a joke, basically.
But what if we come across the best meme, like Space Squids again?
Yeah, I mean, that emerged organically from gameplay and wasn't... Like, I mean, we want our characters and the world around them not to be super silly, basically.
True enough.
It's fine as players for us to make jokes about this stuff, but we want the characters in the story to be more focused than that, I suppose.
Definitely.
Any other thoughts on tone?
I mean, I think another example that I'd like to just at least put out there would be Portal and Portal 2. Kind of the kind of excess, particularly in Portal 2, just like the makes no sense, but they just did it because they could sort of mentality in a way, like the hubris of being like, well, we're going to create this thing and it's horrible, but we found a use for it,
Okay.
In that it's kind of like the tone, I would say, that is taken on the space station in a way.
We want the ghost of Dr. Malcolm going around. You just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah. I think in terms of purposefulness, like the society of people living on the station knew what they were doing. Like it wasn't an accident or something they did just because they could. They did this for a specific reason. The reason was survival. But also the way they went about survival was the worst imaginable way. So I don't know if I can see what you mean in terms of the Portal 2 tone in that way, but that feels maybe more like what Season 1 could have turned into. That sort of Portal 2 exploration of abandoned facilities type of thing. Like if you hadn't gotten Hub online that quickly, there probably would have been a lot of situations where you were running into malfunctioning machinery and nodes and stuff as you were exploring Hub. That was the direction we could have gone. We didn't, because you got Hub online almost immediately. So I threw all of that in the garbage.
It was fate, though.
Yeah, it was a possibility, and we went a different route, and I'm happy that we did. Just saying, I think it'll be similar here in that I will put things in front of you or point you in various directions, and what you do with that and where you go will ultimately completely alter whatever skeletons of a plan that I had laid out. Much less planning ahead of time in terms of what story arc I want to see this time, because last time it all just got tossed anyway, so it didn't matter.
No carefully laid plan survives contact with the enemy.
No. And a lot of that was because in Season 1, I was working from, as I told you, I was working from a novel outline that I never finished writing. So that was why there was an arc in mind that we largely circumvented.
Yeah, I'm so interested. I'm so interested in knowing like some of these other details that we don't know, but
Maybe it'll come out in a post-mortem, which we probably could have or should have done for season 1.
Right. We still can.
We still can.
Lots of mortem.
All right. There was certainly plenty of mort at the end there. Subject matter is the last category here, and is, of course, a very important one. What ideas might be explored during gameplay? Do they make anyone uncomfortable? Discuss and set boundaries. Now we have, as you may recall, a shared Google Doc for our lines and veils. I don't know if you've looked at it recently, or if you've updated it recently.
I have not.
I have not either.
Neither have I.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll drop the link into the Discord again. And as you're opening that up. So far on our lines, which is things that we do not want to appear on screen at all, we've got sexual violence or violence against children, torture, graphic animal violence, suicide, and body piercing. They're things we don't want to see at all. Veils are sexual encounters and self-harm. The things that we fade to black on those, as we did in season 1. So if there are other things that are a hard boundary for you, please make sure that you add them to the line section. Things that you are okay with appearing in play, but would rather it be faded to black, that would go under veils.
Should we put... Oh, sorry, I'm accidentally typing.
Yeah. That's a lot of square brackets. Yeah, that's a good one. Racial slurs. Good. Yep. That's the kind of thing that I just sort of take as a given, but it's good to write that down and have it out there.
For sure.
Yeah, no, it's because we've got other obvious stuff in there as well, so it's good to include that. One of the things that was very deliberate in the season 1 world building, which I did on my own then, was to ensure things like, it's not that racial slurs did not exist, or that form of discrimination didn't exist, but that it was not I don't want to say significant, it was not a foregrounded part of the culture of the world we were playing in. It wasn't something that was at the front of people's minds.
It wasn't.
Because you get to, in building a world, you can simply say, this is a thing that is true in this world. And one of the things I wanted to say was that not racism doesn't exist, but that racism isn't a focus here. Likewise, sexual identity and gender orientation were things that I wanted the characters and society of that season to just take for granted and not be bothered by. And I think I would like to continue at least that latter part with the sexual orientation and gender identity being not something that people are bothered by in this society. Even though it's not a good society, I think we can still have some aspects of it that are better than ours.
Sure.
Being that it is the future.
Yeah, I think that it's progressed enough that it's just generally accepted. One thing I wanted to bring up, I don't have as much of a problem with it, but I wanted to run it by you guys, was the referencing of burial customs or dealing with corpses in a certain degree, because I know that that's something people are squeamish about. One of the things about CD, like the idea for them was that they were had been a medic / doctor, and then, you don't have human patients to work on anymore, so they try to sort of transfer to dealing with the deceased or dormant bodies that had come from the station. And I just wanted to know, run that sort of thing by you guys, everyone, I mean, you folks, with how comfortable we were talking about that sort of death stuff, or mentioning oh, this one has their organs removed because CD is weird and is like, okay, we're going to do mummification for you because you speak to me and say you want to be mummified, or this one's cremated, or this one has been,
So to what degree are you comfortable talking about this type of subject matter?
I mean,
so good. I was head of my forensics class.
I should be fine with that, as long as we're not gratuitous with, not, I won't say harm, but the taking apart of bodies. I can't do that.
Yeah, okay. So veil at autopsies. Okay.
Yeah, I would say.
Okay, so no graphic discussions of dissection, autopsies, surgery, that kind of thing?
Not for me, anyway.
Well, that means not for any of us, so it's important that we establish that.
I mean, like, I'm not comfortable to the degree of certain practices that were done back in the early days of autopsies, like in England. Like, they would do really creepy stuff. But I think that a lot of what CD is doing is like, oh, I am preparing this body for burial, so they would be coming at it at a very respectful angle of like, but this is someone who's a little mentally ill and is basically, I'm not going to say that CD is insane, because I don't want to like label any of this stuff. I don't want to have any negative like things where people feel like I am, talking crap about different mental illnesses. And that's...
Well, CD, we discussed, is basically has a form of PTSD.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's, the thing is, CD saw a lot of horrible things, and they were one of the first people. So to them, and also obviously it's pushed them even further knowing what's going on. So with CD, a lot of what they do is to be like, okay, I'm trying to appease, I'm trying to do my best for this person, but it is a little experiment-y. So like I said, it's like, okay, this person's going to be, I'm going to try to mummify them, but I wouldn't be that. I might say, oh yeah, that's a jar full of organs, but that would be
more abstracted, less concrete descriptions of these things.
Like, CD doesn't go walking around with blood on them. They're much more clean and clinical than that, but
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about that.
Okay. So other subject matter that we'll be looking at here are things that we'll be seeing are the effects of poverty within a closed system. So this society is literally and figuratively stratified, as we've talked about. The closer to the core of the platform you are, the more privilege you have. And this is an oligarchy that we talked about establishing. So the heads of the society are the most powerful military and corporate investors who were on the platform, and then their families. There's, I'm sure, tons of nepotism going around. But so their lives are millions of times better than the lives of the people who live out by the hull, which is, where all of the apparatus that makes the fake sun work is. And, if you're living out there, life is extremely bad. It's extremely tough. And the bodies that you get are the cheapest ones, and they break down the most. It's like, if you're familiar with Discworld, Sam Veeam's Boots theory of poverty. We're talking about, like, if you are living in poverty, you can't afford to buy $200 boots once, even though those will last you for 10 years, because you will never have $200 at one time. So you always have to buy the $10 boots, and you have to buy them twice a year. And so it ends up being so much more expensive than just having the privilege and opportunity to buy nice boots. So it's like that, but with your whole body. And there's strata from one end to the other. So we will definitely be seeing a lot of the outer strata and how life affects them, unless that's something that we're not comfortable exploring and engaging with.
Super into that, both personally and politically.
All about it.
Keekers?
I mean, I find it painful to think about that sort of thing. But then again, that's like the whole mindset of a lot of people on this, in this thing is, oh, it's so painful, I don't want to think about it. But I guess the difference is painful, but you still keep aware. So I guess it's fine, It's not like we are going to be seeing bloated bodies of malnutritious orphans on the side of the road. So
no, that's that would be a gratuitous description to me. Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing that we talked about, I mean, that's an effect of corporate greed, obviously. So the other thing that we talked about is we will be engaging with the ways in which people in a society are responsible for what their society does around the world and to other people, and how to address that. So that's, I don't think, a terribly controversial theme, but I just want to make sure that we're clear that's going to be part of the subject matter. Like, we live in a society. To what extent are we responsible for what that society does to others?
Yeah,
so if we're
really for that.
All about that as well.
Right, because we saw some of that in season 1, particularly towards the end, but we'll be seeing it from the other side now. We'll be inhabiting the characters who are part of that system of oppression. And it may at times get uncomfortably introspective, but hopefully not to a point that it'll be actively causing pain to you as players. Just as a fair warning, that is a topic we will be looking at in this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard. There may be a point where it's like, I need a minute, but
yeah,
you know.
And that brings us to safety tools. My goal, I'm playing this game too. My goal is for it to be fun, but also thoughtful. So I want us to have fun in a way that is respectful and thoughtful about the topics that we're addressing. I think we did a solid job of that in the first season, and I think we'll be continuing that in season 2. Like, I trust all of your instincts as players. So last season, we sort of alternated between using cut break, which I don't think we ever saw much use of, and the X card, which we ended up using a couple of times.
Yes, for the Toad voice.
That as well. It came up a couple of other times. But the X card doesn't have a lot of nuance to it. And going forward into season 2, I would like to have a more nuanced approach to how we approach this, I should say. So that said, on the Babylon Discord server, that's DC's Discord server, the person who made Mutants in the Night, one of the things that they have incorporated is the stoplight mechanic. Are you familiar with this at all?
Yep. I listen to DC a lot.
I don't know, but I figured that that's just like, you say stop, red or yellow or green. Like, green is, oh, I'm fine. Yellow is, okay, let's proceed with caution. And then red is like full stop.
That's the basic idea of it. So I'll just go over it here. So basically, what we'll need to do is grab a couple of objects to keep on our desks that we can use for check-ins as we play. And you don't have to say anything. It might help if you do say something, because I'm not always looking at the cams. But for example, if we were doing something, and I will be using this mechanic as well for my own safety and enjoyment, if I have something that's red, that means we need to stop now. That what we're doing is making me uncomfortable, and we have to stop. So that means we'll change the subject, we'll change what's happening. There's no need for discussion or further input. No one should feel the need to defend what they were talking about at the time. It just means, stop this, we'll do something else. So that's the same as how the X card worked. Good. I see you've all got some red objects there. Excellent. The next layer there is yellow. A yellow object or item will mean slow down, or I'm feeling a little uncomfortable right now. And that means we don't have to stop what we're doing right now, but we need to slow down and take a moment to make sure everybody is okay before we continue with the scene. So if we are in a scene where we're, for example, discussing the treatment of a body or something like that, and we're getting into territory that might be causing people to feel uncomfortable, we would hold up the yellow, and that would mean ease off. Let's take a minute to talk about this and make sure that we're not going to cross any lines, or maybe we should put a veil on this. So having the yellow is a really useful addition to this safety tool. The idea that we don't have to stop right now, but let's slow down and talk about this and check in, make sure everybody's okay. And the last is green, which means we're fine, keep going. So, I don't know, I've got this here, but I'll find something better. That's blue. You're not going to use Sonic the Hedgehog.
But it goes.
Yeah, it's got to go fast. Yeah, if you hold up your Sonic the Hedgehog, it means go faster. More of that.
And if I hold up Myth the Complete Collection, it means that I want to feel pain.
The other thing
I'm having though. Oh, sorry. Blue also can mean stop in Undertale. They're like, so when you see blue, stop. Just imagine a blue stop sign.
And in some countries, the blue is in what they have instead of green.
I did not know that.
At the stoplights. Yeah, like when I was in Japan.
The more you know.
Yeah, wow.
I don't know if it's still that way or if it was only in the city I was in, but yeah, they would often. I remember I was stopped at an intersection with my then girlfriend at the time, and we were chatting, obviously lost in the joy of each other's company. And a lady behind us sort of tapped us and was like, "Oh, this?" I was pointing up at the light, just telling, "Oh, it's blue." So we had to cross, and we had just not been paying attention. And I hadn't really noticed until that point that the light was blue instead of green.
Your then girlfriend?
Now wife, yes.
Oh, I thought it was a different girlfriend for a second there, and I'm like, there was someone before.
Well, that would be an ex. Yeah, there's not particularly a good term to describe. That's why I just use then girlfriend or then fiance to mean at the time they were that.
Oh.
As opposed to ex, as in they were not that anymore.
That def works.
So the last aspect of the stoplight mechanic is a stoplight. And obviously we don't have stoplights, so we might need a different symbol for that. But what this is as something is happening, if you think that it might be causing discomfort or you're concerned about it, you would put up the stoplight symbol, and that would mean you're checking in with everybody to see where they are right now, and everyone would respond with whatever color they're feeling at the moment.
I think you need...
you want to do this?
Like, I know it looks like it's good, but I think like 2 hands parallel to your face kind of looks like a stoplight.
Yeah, your eyes are the red light, your nose is yellow light, your mouth is green light.
Are you waiting for the paper football?
Oh, green light? I think you mean...
Where did that come from?
Super unexpected.
Oh my gosh.
Keekers continues to horrify me by having a sonic blue tongue.
All right.
Where did that come from? Are you like hiding a ring pop?
I'm so surprised you guys
her tongue
didn't.
is just blue.
I'm so surprised you guys didn't notice that I had a blue tongue sooner.
I don't spend a lot of the time looking in your mouth.
No, before we recorded, I had a blue Starburst candy cane because they were like 80.
A blue Starburst candy cane.
They have cherry, green apple, and blue raspberry, and they were like 87 cents at Aldi. So I got them this past week, and I had one, and I was like, "Oh, when are they going to notice that my tongue is completely blue?"
We could have gone for the rest
not until now.
We could have gone for another 3 hours before I never would have realized.
It was perfect, Matt, because you said, and then your mouth is, and I'm like,
it tied together perfectly. That was a good segue, unlike every one I've ever made on this show.
I don't know what you're talking about, but speaking of segues.
Right, so stoplight. We'll hold our hands up the sides of our faces, and that means we're asking for a check-in. So if any one of us does this, the others need to respond with where they are right now on the color scale.
For sure.
And that will let us know. Does that make sense? Is this a clear system?
Yeah. We're all checking in on each other, taking care of our friends. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
I do wonder if we should have some kind of phrase that maybe indicates that people should like look at their cams, just because I know that I'm not always looking at the cams. I'll be futzing around with like the rules and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. What do we want to say?
Eyeballs click. Sorry, that's bad. That's a bad inside joke with a friend.
I mean, eyeballs works.
Could say eyes up.
Eyes
or
up, yeah.
Check.
Eyes check.
Or check in.
Heads up, 7-Up.
Okay, do you want to do eyes up then?
I think eyes up.
Yeah, that works.
Is that a
that's
natural
fine.
enough thing to say? It's not really going to come up in most exchanges.
I can't imagine, yeah.
Yeah. Just the thing is, that was a friend's teacher would say eyeballs, and then they'd all have to look at their teacher and say click.
Those call and response systems can be remarkably useful in managing a classroom.
They really work on toddlers, man.
They work on high schoolers too.
Yeah, but that's what
I can't wait to find out.
So that's a really weird inside joke with a friend, but I don't think she even listens to the podcast, so she won't even get that I referenced it. But I'll have to tell her, you should listen to this because there's a special thing.
We need you to devote about 20 hours to this podcast for one goof, one single goof.
No, she would have
It's definitely more than 20 hours.
Yeah, it's deep. It rolls hard.
I'm gonna.
Season 1 is 53 episodes.
That's so good. We produced so much content.
So I'm gonna say about 2 days worth of. Oh my gosh.
At least. Yeah, because the average episode length is about an hour. That includes all the side stories, both of the InGov service and the Splinter Beast of Sector 5 and Inchoate. All that's included in the 53 episodes of Season 1. Season 2, I expect to be maybe half to a bit over half of that length. And then Season 3, we'll see where we end up.
Are you adding the length of the other playtests we've done?
No, because the playtests are in between things. I'm going to, either I or perhaps one of you will edit up the playtest that we did for Scum and Villainy. And the Sprawl playtest will just be on my YouTube channel.
Oh, I'm so excited for that because I need to link this cat cosplay guy to it because Tully's last name.
Keekers, I need about 5 seconds to process what you've just said.
You have the most interesting story.
I'm so warm right now. What? Why is he gonna dress up like a cat? He's gonna look like this dude from My Hero Academia, just like the really buff cat hero.
No, okay.
That's all I'm picturing, and he has like a death whip. What are you doing?
Thank you so much for saying I have the best stories. I have the weirdest things. Okay, so Tully's last name is Knack, which is the name of a cat that this guy does his cat cosplays with. But Knack recently passed. And I want him to know, I did a little tribute to your cat by naming my character in a tabletop after.
That is some tonal whiplash.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
That's not even a roller coaster. That's just you got to the top and you dropped.
Yeah, but
I feel really bad for laughing.
But no, they do a lot of tabletop RPG, like Critical Role and stuff, costumes for their cats. So I thought it was a fun tribute there. And Tully is the first name was from another Tumblr post, but about a rabbit.
So to Keeker's friend, please understand that our hysterical laughter in that moment was not about you, but
Certainly
simply
not.
about the...
Well, he's not my friend, but yeah, it's not about like... No, I haven't met him. I just follow him.
Simply Keeker's knack for amusing non sequiturs.
I'm so
that
sorry.
Always end up to be connected to the thing that we are talking about after all.
Oh, yeah, goodness gracious.
It's just my weird tendency. My brain goes in different directions than other people's. It's like the best way I can describe autism. It's like, you know how like you're a Mac? I'm like a PC.
So you're John Hodgman.
Well, I was just going to say I crash.
That's a deep cut for...
Yeah, I was just gonna say I have more frequent crashes than other people, but
that's such an eloquent encapsulation. I love it.
That's really good.
Yeah,
I was just thinking of those "I'm a Mac and I'm a PC" commercials.
Oh no,
I missed those.
Those are good. Yeah, those are really fun and wonderful. But I always felt bad for the PC guy. I'm like,
that was John Hodgman, wasn't it?
I don't know their names.
Yeah, I feel like it was.
That was comedian John Hodgman played the PC in the Get a Mac campaign with, what's his name? Wait, hold on. It's not him.
I know that there was a different parody, though, that they did. So maybe...
Oh, he was in the parody.
Okay.
Okay, so, yes, that's not John Hodgman. It was a guy who looked like John Hodgman.
And then they had John Hodgman do the parody. No, it all makes sense.
Right, I don't know. I'm getting confused. Apparently there was a counter advertising campaign launched by Microsoft.
Yeah, no, I remember that. I remember that very vividly because then they're like, I'm
just going to open up. I can't tell if this is completely irrelevant. This has
so
nothing
integral.
to do with anything.
No, this is very integral because we're playing computer people.
Spoilers.
Not little computer people, but computer people.
No, it was John Hodgman.
That is
okay.
The little computer people is a deep cut for old PC people.
It was John Hodgman as the PC and Justin Long as the Mac.
That tracks.
Yeah. Forget that was his name.
Okay, they ran from 2006 to 2009. That recently, eh?
Wow.
Could have sworn they were earlier.
Well, I mean, like...
Okay.
I can
This is a very long digression.
Yeah, but anyway, I can...
We're playing a game?
Yeah. No, we're planning a game.
Excuse me.
All right. Do we want to take a quick break before we get into characters?
I guess so. It would be a good time to feed my dog.
Yeah. I'll go grab some beans.
All right, let's take a quick break. Time is a construct. Anyway, welcome back to Specters of a Broken Sun. We're continuing our Session 0. Session 0 is a time to set expectations, build characters, build the world, and talk about safety. Last time on Session 0, this is all going to be one huge episode, so this is just a pointless reintroduction, I guess. Last time we talked about our expectations, the tone. We used the CATS tool to set up now it's fallen out of my brain. What does the C stand for?
Concept.
Concept?
That's
I said it first, teacher.
You get a gold star.
That was a statement. Mine had an upward inflection. Mine was a question.
So the concept, the aim, the tone, and the subject matter that we would be exploring. And you can listen back to that if you, for some reason, forgot in the past 5 minutes. Otherwise, we generally decided that we were okay with the possibility of making things worse, so long as it does not affect the lives of the Season 1 characters who are around here somewhere. We're hoping to see some type of partial redemption for some of these characters. Despite being part of a horrendous system, they're trying to do something about it, so they have good intentions. We'll see where that goes materially. In general, we decided we wanted to complicate our characters' lives and intentions with the situations they encounter, play to find out what happens in the world, and it's okay if only one person wins or if no one is happy by the end of this. We're aiming to do a type of cyber noir story where the protagonists take harm, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, to advance towards their goals. They get hurt, and in return, in the process of getting hurt, they gain a clue, information, or progress of some sort. And this is in the context of a corporate military dystopia and oligarchic society, which we'll be discussing more in this episode, in this installment. We're aiming to keep our tone fairly similar to Season 1, mostly serious with some funnier moments with some levity in there. Most of the levity being out of character stuff and non sequiturs. And we're aiming for a tone similar to Cowboy Bebop or Solo. Subject matter is going to involve discussions of poverty, colonial violence, and the extent to which people within a society are responsible for how their society treats others. We talked about using the stoplight mechanic as our safety tool, where we have different colored items to represent how we feel. No, you can't use that. You cannot use that as your tool.
Unacceptable. It is haram.
You cannot use my extremely blue-stained tongue.
No, you can't use that as your green light. To check in and see how we are doing with a a scene or a situation or even out of character discussion, at any point, you can throw one of those up. We decided we would have one hand on either side of our face when we want to do a check-in to see how everyone's doing. And if we want to make sure everybody's on the cams to see what's going on, we're going to say, eyes up. I think that's a pretty good summary. So next we need to do our characters.
Woo!
At the beginning of the episode, each of our lovely players here took the time to introduce their characters' names and a little bit about them. But we're going to go through character creation now and ensure that we've got all the steps taken care of properly, everything is mechanically set up, and we know who each other's characters are. Now, character creation also involves populating the world to an extent. In Season 1, with the direction we ended up going, we spent almost zero time in towns, cities, settlements, anywhere where there would be other people.
Just our little garbage children fighting around the world.
Yes.
Scavenging through the ruins, crawling over the surface of a station in outer space. Yeah, we went to all of the least populated places we could find, I think, in Season 1.
Specifically avoided your cool NPCs, man.
I know.
Original character, please don't steal.
That's okay.
Well, we had at least one really big winner, or two. We had a couple of really good ones.
We got some folks in there, and they'll be back. They're still around.
Mandikai!
I know I thought you were all such big fans of Den. I don't understand. What?
Oh,
don't mistake me. I love Denson Young so much.
Love him to death.
I love him to death.
I love Mandikai and Hub and Dawn in Dong.
You love what?
Donk and Tom?
Oh, that's not what I heard.
I'm not repeating that.
Anyway, yes, we have memorable characters here on Splinters of a Broken Sun, or the Broken Sun role-playing game podcast continuum.
Oh no, I forgot the NPC name that we had agreed on at the beginning.
Yargle Schmargle.
Yargle Schmargle.
Oh, thank you so much, Mike.
I pay attention to the important bits.
So, as I was saying 5 minutes ago, the world in which we will be carrying out Season 2 is much more condensed, and it will be very difficult to find anywhere that isn't full of people. Now, not every single character that you meet or see in a scene is going to be a fully fleshed out being that you can adopt and bring home with you, but I mean, you did that in Season 1 anyway with, is there a doctor here? Yeah, sure. Okay, that doctor is part of our family now.
Yeah. Is there
Constance? Yeah.
Constance Wu.
I love Constance. Constance is my favorite on the spot. That was one of my favorite things. I was just like, I need a doctor. And then it was like,
yes,
okay,
you're ours
now. You're ours now. You're now a part of the family.
So yeah, I mean, there's always the opportunity to do that kind of thing with whatever random character you run into. That's part of the fun of these role-playing games. But just so you know, you will have people to interact with in this season.
Wait, in CD's case, are some of these people going to be dead?
I mean, that's their job. And on that note, let's get into talking about who these characters are. So every player character in Scum and Villainy is a daring outlaw, following their destiny out on the galactic fringe, or in this case, following their destiny out on the outer layers, the outer strata of the battle station. You're all familiar with the feats represented by the actions of the game. All of your characters can scrap with enemies, skulk in the dark, attune to the way, in this case, attune to the simulation, consort with your contacts, and so on. Because of the way the dice system works, every character can roll at least 3 dice for any action in the game. You could get +1 for pushing yourself or from a doubles bargain, +1 from an assist from a teammate, and +1 from a gambit. Now, something I messed up a couple of times in the playtest is that you cannot push yourself and take a doubles bargain. It is one or the other. You can always push yourself and get an assist and use a gambit, but you can't push yourself and take a doubles bargain. It's one or the other. Okay, so that means that there's on 3 dice, that's a 87% chance of success to some extent. So the odds are in your favor, believe it or not, evidence to the contrary. Yes.
That's not true.
The 0... it didn't seem that way in our playtests, but okay. So when you have 0 in an action rating on your character's sheet, that doesn't mean your character's bad at that. It just means it's not their specialty. When you have any dots in an action rating, that means your character's good at that, like actively good at it. But a 0 just means you know how to do it, but it's not your forte. So that means that those are actions that are more likely to force you to push yourself beyond your limits, or more likely to put you in a risky situation when you do them, because they're not your specialty, but you can still do them, but you're going to have to push yourself, take a chance. It's the kind of thing like Han Solo trying to bluff in the Death Star. He's not good at it, but he knows how it works conceptually, and he pushes himself, and he doesn't roll very well on that one. Okay, when you have your back and you set your mind to it, you can attempt almost any action in this game. Teamwork is very helpful. Of course, you'll also have particular talents. Things that you're particularly good at are where you'll put your points in your action rating. Maybe you want to be the best pilot or driver in our case in this sector. Maybe you want to be the best hacker, whatever the case may be. So to start with character creation, you pick a playbook. Now, much like the Powered by the Apocalypse games like Dungeon World that you saw in Monster of the Week, that we saw back in the Season 1 side stories, there are playbooks rather than classes, and the playbook gives you all the information that you need in order to be that character as fully as possible. There are 7 basic playbooks. I said basic, and that's not a word, but maybe that's a character that we'll meet.
It's a combination between basic and LASIK surgery, it sounds like.
Maybe.
It's Botox and LASIK. It's a combo.
My eyes.
You inject fat into your eyeballs.
God,
got that plump iris
people,
look.
You must stop.
There are 7 Okay. There are 7 basic playbooks. By choosing a playbook, you're determining which type of crew member your character is. So we've got the mechanic. Play a mechanic if you want to make new devices, keep your ship in good shape, or hack systems. The muscle. Muscles are good at winning fights. Play a muscle if you want to be unstoppable in combat. The fighting role for shooting or hitting is the same in this game, so it's just flavor, basically. The mystic. Mystic is good at dealing with the way, or the simulation in this case. Play one if you want to use artifacts and weird powers. Pilots. Play a pilot if you want to be a daredevil at the wheel and widely traveled. A scoundrel. Scoundrels love getting into and out of trouble. Play a scoundrel if you want to press your luck. That's your Lando playbook, basically. Speaker. Play a speaker if you want to be the respectable one and use connections to get your way. And Stitch. Play a Stitch to deal with science, patch people up, and be the crew's moral compass. Your Bones type or your Shepherd type. Not Commander
Or
Shepherd.
CD.
We'll
Maybe.
see. D.
Oh, boy.
Now, each playbook has a set of special abilities which give your characters a way to break the rules, and experience triggers which determine how you earn experience for character advancement. Each playbook also has a starting ability unique to them. No playbook has a monopoly on their focus. A muscle could be amazing at helm. A mystic might be excellent at scrap. It's all entirely up to how you build your character. Originally, the Blades in the Dark system didn't have playbooks at all, just lists of abilities, and you would just grab them willy-nilly. And you can still basically do that, because one of the advances on any of your playbooks is the veteran advance that lets you steal from another playbook. So you can build these characters however you want over the course of this season, pursue whatever thing you want. Don't feel that you're bound by your initial selection here. So the playbook gives you a set of initial action ratings and special abilities that will be easiest for you. You determine your character's essential nature, and both your skills and nature can evolve over time. It also describes how others in the station view you. When syndicates plan a job, they may think in terms of crews that have a pilot, mechanic, and muscle. So when you're getting hired to do stuff. All right. So Once you've chosen your playbook, follow the steps below to complete your character. So, I believe you all already picked playbooks, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Indeed.
So, Augustus, played by Velvet. What is Augustus's playbook?
Speaker.
Speaker. Excellent. I'll put that in my notebook, and my red pen is dead. Good. Trying to color code things and be all organized, but my pen is not organizing.
You must use blood to appease Velvet.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I mean, is there like a particular type of blood you prefer?
That's the type of question we would only hear from CD, played by Keekers. What is your playbook?
I'm playing the Stitch.
Of course you are.
What?
With that question.
Oh.
Okay. We'll get into more about your characters later on down the line. We're just doing playbooks now.
I really couldn't have been a doctor. It would not have bode well.
Yeah, me neither. Slip, played by Mike.
Hey.
What's your playbook?
Mystic. I'm spooky.
A mystic.
Spooky boy.
You're a wizard, Mike.
Roger. Robert.
I'm just going to go back quickly. Actually, no, we can probably do this in the next section.
And listeners, we're pretty sure that Jason is going to be muscle.
Maybe. We'll see.
Maybe.
Jason's not with us today as he's been out of sorts, but once he is feeling better, I'll go over all the stuff that we've done in this session with him, make sure that he's up to date and gets to add anything he wishes, and I'll put those additions into the show notes, should there be any.
I believe the accurate term was down with the sickness.
Yeah.
Yes. He said he was down with the sickness. Then, exactly. So, choose a starting ability. Playbooks begin with their starting ability marked. Each playbook has a starting ability that only members of that playbook get. This helps define your role on the crew and how factions in the station view you. Starting abilities cannot be chosen via the veteran special ability. So that's your one special unique thing. If you want to play a Xeno, a member of an alien species, that's not going to come up in this season as player characters. So, next is choose a special ability. So you have a list of special abilities. Choose one special ability for your character. If you can't decide which one to pick, go with the first one on the list. It's placed there as a good default choice. If you're familiar with the other playbooks, you can start with a veteran advance if you like. Each character can have up to 3 veteran advances, which can be earned through play. So, starting abilities. Tell us about your starting ability, Augustus.
Because I have an air of respectability, I get extra downtime activities to acquire assets or lay low.
Okay, excellent. And what special ability have you picked?
Player. I always know when someone is lying to me.
Oh, interesting. That'll be fun, because that also applies to your fellow characters. So, if any of you were planning on lying to Augustus, they'll know.
Oh, that should be fun. What if the character doesn't know?
That's wild.
Or doesn't exactly remember?
Augustus knows that you don't know.
I mean, I'm guessing, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I'm guessing Augustus hasn't necessarily let all of you know that they are always aware of when you're lying.
Just so you know, guys.
Yeah.
I can tell.
Hey, heads up, y'all.
Don't lie to me.
Okay. CD, what is your starting ability for the Stitch?
I'm a doctor, not a ... which is one of the best ones, I have to say. You can push yourself to roll your doctor rating while performing a different action. Say which patient, research, or position or posting taught you this trick.
Yeah.
It could be position, but anyway. My one issue here is that they're robots. So how does this translate if CD was a human doctor?
Presumably, CD can still carry out operations in the simulation, right?
Yeah.
Or at least CD will have... CD's specialty is human bodies.
Yeah, I think that CD has learned how to doctor the robotic body, but I just wanted to double check that that was okay, that it had carried over.
I'm assuming you're going to put some points in rig at some point, because that would be the mechanical equivalent.
Yeah, we'll just argue that at least in the simulation, I'd use the doctor skill.
Mm-hmm. This brings up an important question.
Mm-hmm.
Are doctors who operate on robots still doctors, or are they engineers?
Oh, God.
You're also, of course, welcome to crib moves from the mechanic playbook to represent whether or not, because I don't know if CD has bothered learning how to fix mechanical bodies.
Real good at cutting, not good at putting yourself back together.
I mean, it would be so interesting, though. Oh, gosh. I just imagine some horrible body horror that we're not going into. I am thinking about a couple different special abilities. One I was thinking was Physiker, that I may study Melody's wounds, or a corpse and gather info from a crime scene. Also, your crew gets 1d to recovery rolls. I don't really know if that one's necessarily the most well-suited. Because I don't know if...
Yeah, I don't know how many... Well, I guess it depends if you're in simulation or not.
Yeah.
What was the other one you were thinking of?
Oh, there were two others. Welcome anywhere. While wearing your medical garb, you are welcome even in dangerous places. Gain 1+ dice to consort and sway when offering to tend to anyone in need.
Mm-hmm.
That one's a little harder because of the fact that simulation again. And then Dr. Strange. Your research and fields of study are fringe, esoteric, and focused on the mystical. You may always handle precursor artifacts safely. When you study an artifact or a Doctor or Strange substance, you may ask 1, what could do this? Why could this be dangerous?
Okay.
It's hard because I feel like that kind of described CD in a sense, like their weird way of going about things, but I don't know if the what could this do is exactly going to come up. It's so hard.
Well, it might. You don't necessarily know what's being kept on this battle station.
Mm-hmm.
So such things might come up, and rather than it being precursor, would probably be, alien artifacts in this case. Things to do with the emergency or the mistake.
Or perhaps other technology that CD is not familiar with that someone else made. So I guess I'll go with Doctor Strange.
Okay. You can also, you can also go over and look at the mechanic playbook, which I think is the other one that's most relevant to your character, and see if any of those abilities are more exciting for you.
Okay.
But for now, we'll mark down that you took Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And you can put that on your sheet by putting a check next to it. Okay. What is the starting ability for Slip?
The way, or I guess for our purposes, the simulation. I can spend a gambit instead of paying any stress cost whenever I want, as long as we have gambits.
Okay, that makes sense. And what special ability have you picked?
Side dancing. I can push myself to cloud a target's mind and sway them in the face of contradictory evidence. I can Jedi mind trick them. And I can spend stress to make it even better.
Dude.
Okay. All right. And of course, we'll have to make sure that we approach the concept of affecting people's minds without their consent in a sensitive way.
It is wrong.
I'm glad we've established that. Yeah, but actually that's a subject matter that we did not touch on in the first section that we probably should have. The idea of memory alteration and all that, which is a big part of this season, and I can't believe I forgot to bring that up. But we have talked about it extensively in our Discord, and it seems like we're okay approaching that.
Just so much.
All right. So special abilities, special armor. I don't think any of you have special armor at the moment, so that's not necessarily relevant, but if you have it, you can use it in the cases where it tells you can use it.
What about plot armor?
Plot armor is largely represented by gambits and pushing yourself. All right, choose a heritage, describes their upbringing or family. Pick a heritage and decide if you're native to the battle station or from elsewhere in Earth. I'm just finding and replacing here in the book descriptions to fit with our setting. For example, you might choose Imperial Heritage and write once powerful core world nobles now destitute. In this case, the Imperial would be more like the Investor. They both start with I. Or you might choose the Colonist Heritage and write farmers from closer to the core. That would be more like people who would be merchants or mechanics or something that works with their hands in this setting. Do we have heritages picked out for Augustus?
Yes. Investor, and I guess maybe not core founder, but definitely one of the first people to be like, you know what? Good idea.
Yeah, this was a good idea. A good idea to building this station? Were they one of the people who invested in the construction of the station? Or someone who invested in the ongoing maintenance? Or just somebody who got onto it when it was escaping Earth?
I think definitely one of the people that invested in the idea and construction.
Okay. So it would have been a high stratus individual in this society.
Old money.
At some point. Yeah, but something has happened. All right, so you can put that detail on your sheet. You can put the investor and then a detail about that, in which case it said it was old money or original investor in platform construction. Okay, and what is the heritage for CD?
I will say CD is a little bit of a mystery to an extent. Like, people don't really know that much about CD before they came onto the platform. But CD was on the platform before the emergency happened. So I have them as first-gen war medic because they had been on the platform and definitely saw some action and was a doctor/medic.
Okay. And were they from Earth initially?
Yes, they were.
Or from, like, the moon colonies or something else? So they're from Earth?
Oh, I mean, that's not... I mean, when you say from Earth, like, I think they were born on Earth, but
okay,
what, like, CD would kind of like not say like, oh, I am from I'm from this they kind of moved around is basically it. They're not from anywhere.
So you might pick the Wanderer heritage in that case.
In a sense, yeah.
If we have people from the moon, are they Moonanites?
Maybe they are.
They're legally distinct knights.
Okay, and all right, so the detail has moved around a lot and worked on the station there. All right, and that brings us to Slip. What is Slip's heritage?
Wanderer, can't put it together. I don't remember much.
Okay, good. So Wanderer, memory issues, can't remember most of their past. The next thing is the background. So the heritage is how you were raised. Background is what you've been doing before you joined this crew. Pick a background option from the list or come up with your own. Then write a detail about it specific to your character. For example, you could choose labor and then write gas miner. Or you might choose syndicate and then write former assassin of the Ashen Knives. So the available backgrounds are academic, a professor, student, researcher, or other knowledge-driven vocation. Labor, a factory worker, driver, dockhand, miner, or other tradesperson. Majority of the majority of people on the Sun are from this background. Cult, part of a cult, officially sanctioned or not. A holy warrior, priest, or religious devotee, like a Jedi kind of thing. A guilder, involved in the machinations of a guild, or in this case, probably a corporation. The military, a soldier, mercenary, intelligence operative, strategist, training instructor, etc. It's probably the majority of powerful people are military or guilders in this setting, with most likely the majority being military of some stripe. And then their families. Noble, in this case, would be like an investor, living the life of luxury, such as a dilettante, someone caught up in house politics, etc. Or syndicate, part of an organized criminal gang, from the lowest lookout to ousted former crime lord. So what background does Augustus have?
The Bacchanal cult. We had some Dorian Gray situation.
Okay, good. So a cult of the Bacchanal. So focus on hedonism, enjoying life's pleasures.
We had a statue of hedonism bot.
Excellent. And what is the background for CD?
CD has more of a military medic background. They was doing that for most of their life and got a position on the station. And then after being a medic was not needed as much, they became a mortician. And then kind of moved into being quote-unquote fixer. But they still do deal with the dead brought onto the station.
So, labor?
I guess.
Because you're basically like a warehouse worker or tradesperson in this case, with your trade being the care and maintenance of organic bodies in storage.
Exactly.
Okay. And what is Slip's background?
Slip is syndicate union organizer.
Okay. How's that been going? Or how did that go?
Well, I got downgraded a couple times. And now I live in a hodgepodge bot.
So not great. For some reason, they don't seem friendly to unions here.
They really don't like unions in the sun.
What can you say? All right. Assign 4 action dots. So you've got 2 already put in to start with. 1 action at level 2 and 1 at level 1. So 3 to start off with. You get to add 4 more action ratings to bring you to a total of 7 dots assigned. During character creation, no action rating may be higher than 2 unless a special ability tells you otherwise. Brief descriptions of all the actions are on pages 64 and 65 of the PDF. I can read any one of them for you if you need a refresher. So, assign them like this. Increase by 1 any action that you feel reflects your character's heritage. Increase by 1 any action that you feel reflects your character's background. And then increase 2 more actions anywhere that you like for a max rating of 2. So I'm just going to take a moment to go over the attributes and actions that exist for the benefit of our listeners. So there are 12 total actions broken up into 3 categories of attributes. The first section is Insight. Insight includes the actions Doctor, Hack, Rig, and Study. The next attribute is Prowess. Prowess includes Helm, Scramble, Scrap, and Skulk. They were 1 away from getting all of those to be S. It could have been like Shippin'. And the final attribute is... I come to think of it, that would be a different and much funnier skill to have.
Spacing.
That's something I'm really good at.
What's your...
I'm already really good.
How many action points do you have in shipping?
Oh,
so many.
I have a lot.
5. I have 5 active dots.
Friends.
What level of shipping are you on? Oh, I like to ship Archie and Veronica. You were like a small child.
Oh.
I ship Archie and Sonic.
They were part of the same comic book publisher, so it works.
Yeah, absolutely true.
So an Archie and Sonic comic crossover was possible at one point. I want.
No, I'm pretty sure they actually did that.
It must have happened.
I want the audience to know that exists, and you live in a world made of sin.
There was a crossover between Sonic and Mega Man really recently.
Yeah.
There
was a crossover between Archie and the Punisher.
Oh boy,
yeah.
I want to read that.
It's surprisingly entertaining.
I hope so.
There's a crossover between this like paranormal dog and cat comic called Beast of Burden, and there was a crossover between that and Hellboy, and I really, really want to read it.
So the next downtime game, obviously, will be our interstitial campaign, where we indulge in all of the ridiculous crossover shipping we want.
Yes!
Season 3!
Should I just write a list of all my weird ships? Oh.
Please. And post it online.
Yeah, you can put it on the official Tumblr.
Yeah.
That no one ever visits.
I visit it.
How dare you?
Okay.
I can't visit it.
So, under Prowess, we have Helm, Scramble, Scrap, and Skulk. Prowess is like physical stuff. Insight is like mental stuff. And then there's Resolve, your willpower. Resolve has the skills Attune, Command, Consort, and Sway. So, Augustus, how have you assigned your points here? First off, what did you start with?
So I started with Sway and Study.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have 2 in Sway, 2 in Study. I put 2 in Hack, and then I put 1 in Attune, just because I figured that would be something I would do.
Okay. Makes sense to me. What are the action ratings for CD?
No surprise, CD has 2 in Doctor, 1 in Rig, 1 in Study, and I have 1 or 2 in Attune right now. I think I get 1 more pip. I'm trying to figure out if I want to put it in Scramble or Hack.
Now, one thing to keep in mind when you're assigning points, and again, this is not a system like D&D or Pathfinder where you can really game it. There's not like a power gaming element to it. But a thing to keep in mind is that you use your attribute rating when you are rolling resistance to things that you don't want to happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
So as with most games that I like to play, I don't roll dice most of the time. Mm-hmm. I say what is happening to you based on the fiction. And if you don't like it, you can roll resistance in a way that makes sense. And then you spend some stress based on your resistance roll, and that downgrades the consequences of the action I said is happening. So I might say the thug comes towards you with their knife and stabs you in the heart. You take level 3 harm, bleeding out. You might say, I don't want that to happen. I'm going to roll to resist. And I would say that's a prowess roll, because that makes sense. It's a physical thing. You would roll however many dice you get for prowess. Right now, you don't have any skill ratings in prowess, which means you would be rolling 0 dice. You roll 2 and take the lower.
Okay, so it's between scramble or skulking. I'm just trying to figure out which one describes CD more.
Okay. Do you see CD doing more like parkour or more like hiding?
Hiding, no. So skulk.
Skulk. Yep. All right, good.
Hiding in the shadows, staring at you, steepling their fingers.
And what are Slip's skill ratings?
I got no insight.
Good.
But I have 1 scramble, 1 in skulk, 2 in attune, 1 in consort, and 2 in sway.
Really quick.
All right.
Really quick. I just want to remind people that even though CD's really creepy, they might be like, well, I can't speak for Slip, but they might be like the best, nicest person in this.
Slip's good.
Yeah.
Slip has issues.
Augustus is so nice. He's like everybody. They're like everybody's best friend.
Very nice.
Okay, how about good?
Good is relative.
Totally relative, man.
Yeah.
Augustus is related to good.
So I guess CD is the goodest.
Well, the Stitch is supposed to be
the moral
center of the team, the moral compass of the team.
You have one job.
If that's how CD sees themselves, great.
I think they see themselves as that. Whether that's true, I don't know.
Definitely true. You're the guiding head. That's us.
And speaking of relatives, our next step is to pick a friend and a rival. Now, on your playbook, you have a list of friends or contacts. Where is it on here? Weird friends or fast friends or whatever it is called on your playbook. And there are going to be 4 there. And they've got built-in names, but you don't have to use those. You can click on those names and change them to whatever you want. So you can also change the descriptions to better match our setting. For example, on the Mystic playbook, one of the contacts is Lax Azino. There aren't any Andromedans or Centaurans in the general population of this battle station, so you'd probably want to change that to something else.
In the general population. Noted.
I pick my words carefully.
You sure do, yeah, English teacher.
So this step involves you picking which one of those is actually a friend of yours and which one is your rival. Now, rival does not necessarily mean enemy. Your rival can be a friendly rivalry or a professional rivalry. It could be the student who always gets better marks than you in class. You don't hate them. They're your rival. It sounds like my family's home. So while you are thinking about who your friends and rivals are and maybe molding them a little bit to fit in with this setting, I'm going to go and put a pause in here.
Super.